Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our webinar, MES and BI Tools Transform Shop Floor Data into Actions. Our presenter today will be Dan Nelson, data engineer here at PICO, and I will let Dan take it away.
Hello, I'm Dan. I'm data engineer over at PICO. I've worked in data both as an analyst and as an engineer, so I've been on the front and back of data for the last several years. And today we're going to talk about mostly about how the potential that you can have to connect a BI tool to PICO's data. So getting into it, some of the challenges that are happening on on production floors are being able to understand timing and efficiency. How efficient are the processes? How smooth are things rolling at each station or with each operator across the entire production line? So having access to data is not always the easiest. It can be a challenge. Another challenge is guaranteeing product quality without sacrificing the pace of production. Sometimes that QA, the QA process can slow down production, whereas if you had readily available data, you wouldn't have to slow down production to be able to pick up the QA metrics that can help improve quality. Understanding equipment capacity and station utilization. What are the reasons for downtime? Why are we missing production goals? Why are we not running at full utilization? Calculating throughput, first pass yield, cycle time. Those aren't always the easiest to track unless you have specific methods in for tracking those, as well as defects and rework. If you don't have any data or insights into what's causing those, it makes it harder to fix those and prevent the rework. Shop floor data, data integrity. If you don't know your data is accurate, if you don't know where it's coming from, those can also present challenges on the production floor. As well as connecting different shop floor systems to BI or analytics tools. These can cause or pose some challenges. Also, getting off of paper. Moving things over to be more digital can always have good benefits. So today we're going to talk about some of the benefits of how PICO can solve these challenges. So first off, we'll talk about, there's the shop floor execution. That's your MES, which is going to capture your data in real time. With PICO, anytime you torque a wrench or you torque a screw, we're gonna measure that torque and we're gonna record it. We're gonna capture all that production data in real time. As it happens, it gets recorded. Anything that's connected as far as operators, processes, tools, equipment, all of that's all that data is being collected in real time in the MES software. We can also track manufacturing KPIs as work happens, and which enables for immediate responses. As soon as something's detected in that data, we can look into it. Next level of data is kind of the BI. Having the custom dashboards, weekly reports, or any of that would ideally be produced in a BI tool. And that's one of the benefits of PICO is we allow for you to connect your BI tool to PICO, which lets you generate your own dashboards, your own reports, aggregated at whatever levels, filtered, or however you might find it best used for you. So you can aggregate data across time. You can compare performance across lines, shifts, sites, operators, stations. Whatever level of granularity you want the reports to be at. When you're using your own BI tool, you can dig into that with whatever detail that you need. This also lets you combine MES data with your own data. If you want to look at sales, you want to pull data from your ERP. If you want to pull financial data, HR data to look at hourly, rates of pay, you can combine all that in your BI tool using your own data warehouse or whatever methods you want to combine that data. And then using your own BI tool, it also supports executive and stakeholder reporting. So if you have reports or dashboards that you want to surface to executives, having that BI tool in place lets you surface those either with dashboards or reports that are sent out at whatever frequency makes the most sense for your organization. So having your own BI tool really makes a lot of sense And one of the benefits of PICO is that you can connect your BI tool to the data that you get from PICO. And so, as we mentioned, some of the issues with legacy MES systems are the data being flexible, whether it's reliable. You don't have as many abilities to look into things. There's no room for custom analytics. It's hard to integrate it with other business systems, and you're kind of stuck with whatever analytics are built into that software. So connecting your BI tool has a lot of benefits. One thing to note is that many manufacturers are going to rush to create dashboards, based on the dashboards, without realizing that you really want to make sure the underlying data, the data that you're generating on the shop floor, is accurate, and it's reflective of what's actually happening on the shop floor. So data validation is something that it's important to make sure that your data is clean. So PICO helps out with that. We have digital work instructions, which really standardize work on the shop floor. We have the Internet of Things. The tool integrations are going to automate real-time data collection while building is happening. And then we also allow traceability. So any part that comes in, all serial numbers can be scanned, tracked, recorded. So you can track anything that's moving through your production floor, thanks to capturing that data in real time with PICO. So as we mentioned, we mentioned you can connect a BI tool, your own business intelligence tool, to the data that's in PICO. And so how that kind of generally works is the data is captured on the shop floor and it's captured in the PICO system. So every scan, every torque, every measurement is recorded. Every serial number you scan is recorded, given unique identifiers, and written in databases in the PICO, in the application. That data is stored, and then there are some dashboards in the PICO that you can pull up that use that data. However, we also replicate that data to another database, which allows you to connect a BI tool to it and run any analytics on it that you want. You can run your dashboards. You can pull it into a data warehouse where you can mix it with other data. As you mentioned, you can combine it with sales, HR, ERP. You can look at combine it with all kinds of things so you can get really robust dashboards. So that's one of the benefits of PICO, is all that data that's stored in the application can be pulled out and mixed with other data in the BI tool. So that's the BI tool. So here's an example just of one of the dashboards that are built into the tool, which you can see they're useful. It's real time. You can look at build counts. You can look at build times. These are available natively in the PICO software in the application. But sometimes you want to dig in more. You have different questions. You want to drill down. You want to aggregate things at a larger level. You have your own colors or schemes that you want to use in your dashboards so that you can visualize your production data. So that's where having your own BI tool comes in handy. So here, this is just an example. This is Tableau, for example, is one BI tool that you can connect. And this is just an example dashboard of maybe you have your own metrics, your own definitions for first pass yield, your own leaderboards for efficiency that you can connect and then you have control of. So this is just an example of something we pulled from Tableau where you can combine that data with any other data in your data warehouse and pull that into your dashboards. So just to kind of reiterate, the data that you get it's the same data, it's the same raw data, and these don't compete. They just offer different solutions. So in your MES system, you can track KPIs like cycle time, station utilization, throughput, and those are going to be available in real time in the application software, available to anybody who has access to the application. And these are going to answer the questions. What did I make? How many of them did we make? How fast? How long did it take? But then sometimes there are bigger questions, or you want bigger picture answers. And that's where the BI tool comes into handy. So you can track things like first pass yield. Maybe you have your own definition of what counts as a first pass. So you can incorporate that logic of what qualifies as a first pass into your BI tool. You can have your own filters and really define it yourselves. And so that's that. It's nice to have that level of control. You're not just stuck with the boxed analytics that come with your MES software. So if you want to dig into where can we improve, where can we improve, where are the sources of rework? Are these, is it a certain station that's having issues? Is there a certain operator that's having issues, or are there certain instructions that just aren't clear? And that's where the rework is coming from. You can track that all back so that you can solve those problems of efficiency. You can see, why does one process outperform another? Anyway, having that level of granularity into your data and building your own custom metrics allows you to do that. So that is kind of the general gist of how you can connect your BI tool. I don't know if it was mentioned, but we're compatible with several different BI tools. Anything that will connect to a Postgres database, you can use. Some popular ones are Tableau. Hex is kind of more of a notebook style, but they have analytics in there. Superset is also another one that's commonly used. But basically any BI tool you have that will connect to a Postgres database can be used, to pull the data, build your dashboards, and get the analytics that you need. So that is the general gist. I think from here we had some time. It looks like there are a couple questions in the text or in the thread. Oh, look, they pop right up on the screen.
Yeah, Dan, we had a couple, our first question pop up here. So how do you handle access raw data, unstructured data like pictures, and or semi-structured data from Liam?
So the semi-structured, we just pipe everything to the end user. The semi-structured would just be saved either in a text or a JSON, whatever kind of format makes sense to pipe it through. And then it would depend, depending on the exact field, it would then be the responsibility of the customer to write the code or the logic that would parse that out to be useful to them. There are a few of us on the data team that can help write that logic that would kind of parse out any of that semi-structured data. As far as pictures or images, those they're not, as of right now, they're not available to get pushed to the database, just because images, the way that we have our data pipeline set up, can't push those. But there are, if that does need to be delivered, the images can be saved and delivered through shared object storage. So that's kind of a one-off thing where we'd have to talk with a customer, but it is possible to be shared, just not through the database necessarily. Let me know if that answered your question, or if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, Dan. We have another one here. Are you using time scale on top of Postgres? I'm not sure what Postgres is for time series data.
We're not using anything on top of it. So right now, everything's just getting stored in Postgres. If you wanted any additional, layers on that, that would be up to the customer to implement that. But everything is available down to the raw level. So all timestamps are recorded. So you can use your own tool or layers, to help map out the time series, the events.
Okay, great. Thank you. Another question from Brent. What is the high-level architecture of the platform, on-prem, cloud-based, hybrid?
The data is originally stored. So most customers will have, and there's some variability here. So most customers will have a hardware on-prem that has the original Postgres database. We replicate the data from that database to a number of places where it can be on-prem. if there are security concerns and you don't want any of that data pushed to a cloud environment, we can do that replication to another on-prem piece of hardware where it will just host another, it's almost identical Postgres. Everything's Dockerized. So we put things in Docker containers. So there'll be another Postgres on the physical drive on site that you can then access. So there's no cloud, nothing's getting pushed to a cloud. We also have cloud environments available so that if you want to make it easier to access, we can push it to a cloud environment that also uses a Postgres Docker. But then we also offer a data warehouse. So we use BigQuery. So that's Google's data warehousing software, which is cloud-based, which is another way that you can access the data, which makes it really easy to share and for your BI tool to connect to. So there's quite a bit of, we can do any on-prem, cloud, or hybrid, kind of depending on what your data security needs are. And it looks like there's another question. So how do you get the data in and out of the platform to integrate it with everything else? So that would be, you would need to have your own data warehouse, either Databricks, Snowflake, your own instance of BigQuery, or I mean, you could even do it with a Postgres if you had a way to ingest it. But basically, you would extract the data from our analytics database, put it into your own warehouse where you could then mix it with any other data sources. So you could pull in your ERP or anything else. But the data would just be available from our analytics layer for you to pull into yours, where you could do that those levels of aggregation.
Okay, great, thank you. Another question that came in on the side here. How often is the data updated in the BI tool?
So this is the data freshness, or how frequently it's updated, can also depend. It depends a little bit on the system. If it's on-prem, it generally gets updated every 15 minutes to that replication, but that can be changed to as frequently as needed. So if you have dashboards that you really do need high levels, of freshness, we can move that down to every few minutes. The cloud, if the BigQuery solution actually pulls the raw data live. So as it's being written to the PICO system, the replication process pulls that into BigQuery. So the raw levels of that data are live. And then there's a few models that we do off of that. And those typically run every hour, but we can set those to run as frequently as you need. So down to 15 minutes, down to every few minutes. So there's quite a bit of variability depending on your needs to how often that data refreshes. But we can get it as fresh as you need. That's for sure.
Okay, great. So there's some options there. One more question that came in on the side. What flavor of SQL is the data stored in?
So it's generally stored in what's Postgres is kind of the flavor of SQL. The main databases where the data is stored are Postgres databases. And then one of the other options, as I mentioned, was to save it to, or it gets pushed to BigQuery. BigQuery is Postgres based. There's a few syntax differences, a few different functions that are available in BigQuery, but it is a Postgres based SQL language.
Okay, and one more here. Can I get access to raw data from PICO?
Yes, the raw data is available. There are a few caveats. We do a little bit of filtering just to keep the data clean, and there's a few formatting things. Some of the data comes through as raw JSONs, so we'll do a lot of the parsing on those to split them out when we need. But we can offer the data pretty much as raw as you would need it if you want to do your own analysis or aggregations or parsing of any of that data. So we can, as default, we do generate a few aggregated views for customers to access, but we can grant access to the data as raw basically as raw as you would like.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think we have one more. How long would it take to integrate my BI tool?
So depending on the tool, it's generally pretty easy. The connection usually takes about a day. We'll give you credentials. We'll give you the endpoints and the credentials to access the analytics database. From there, it's just a matter of having your BI, your analyst, connected up and start pulling data. So typically about a day or two, or a day to get things connected, and then you should have access to the data and can start building. So it really is pretty straightforward.
Okay, great. Thank you. If anyone else has any other questions, now is the time to pop them into the chat where you can get a live answer from Dan. Otherwise, you're always welcome to email us after and we can get back to you that way. But any more questions, now's the time. And before we conclude here, I just wanted to share a quick poll with you all. If you could just take 2 seconds to fill this out. I'm going to pop this up on the screen now. Maybe, maybe not. My poll isn't working. I'll try to pop it in at the end here. Yeah, Dan, you can go ahead to the next slide.
I think it's stuck on the.
Are we stuck?
On the Q&A? Yeah.
Okay,
if I try to go to the next one, it just hangs up.
Okay, give me 1 sec here. There we go. Okay. Let me try to pop this poll up here now. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, there we go. If you could just fill the poll out for us. Leave that up for a couple seconds. All right. Okay, we can move on now. So for the next steps, if you're an existing PICO user, you can see how you can elevate your shop floor data with our BI tool integrations. Just contact us here at support@picomes.com. And then if you're new to PICO or you're still exploring, you can schedule a demo just by clicking on this link here, or just picomes.com/demo. So if there are no more questions, I think we can conclude for the day. So thank you, Dan, and thanks all for joining us.